Our next storyteller is Cody Pomeranz, and when asked that question, what are you going to miss least about Yale, Cody's answer was, he says, here's the first thing that comes to mind, I don't miss walking up Science Hill. That is why I was a history major. I was a history major for a reason. So I don't know Science Hill because you know I didn't make it to Yale. I chose McDonald's over Yale, but apparently Science Hill is terrible. A huge round of applause for Cody Pomeranz, ladies and gentlemen.
So I'm afraid of everything. Clowns, being alone, Ted Cruz, being alone with Ted Cruz. The last time I rode a roller coaster was when I was 10 and I blacked out. I'm afraid of everything and I worry about everything, and this is a common medical condition called Judaism. It was easy to spot early on because everyone in my family's a doctor, except for the lawyers. It was also clear to everyone when I wanted my bar mitzvah theme to be emergency preparedness. So when my college friend Jeremy asked me to go on a post-graduation backpacking trip to Southeast Asia, you'd think I would have said no, and I did at first. But my 3 older sisters really encouraged me to go. They said, Muffin. They call me Muffin. They said, Muffin, you can't be afraid of living. You've got to be more adventurous. I mean, this could be your last chance to travel the world before you're stuck behind a desk the rest of your life. Plus, Jeremy told me he would plan the whole thing, set the agenda. All I'd have to do is show up. So I decided to throw caution to the wind and go. But I needed to check with my mom first. And my mom also worries about everything killing me. The only reason she was okay with me going on this trip is because I told her that Jeremy was also Jewish. Now, she thought this meant that Jeremy was like me. She was wrong, because Jeremy is actually a 6'4", thrill-seeking daredevil with a six-pack. Jeremy is the rarest of Jews, a Junicorn. In fact, he was actually featured in our college tabloid Yale Rumpus 50 Most Beautiful Students on Campus edition, on the cover, shirtless. When I stood next to Jeremy, it looked like a before and after photo of puberty. Like, he's built like a G.I. Joe, and I'm built like a G.I. Jew. And by that I mean a Jew with GI problems. A friend of mine actually told me that Jeremy looks like a cross between Jake Gyllenhaal and Ryan Reynolds. And that same friend told me that I look like a cross between Neville Longbottom and Beans from Even Stevens. If you don't know who that is, Google it. It's not a compliment. But Jeremy also knew that I was afraid of everything, because unicorns can smell fear. And he was explaining to me, he was like, don't worry, man, like, I'm gonna take care of you. We're gonna have a blast. We're gonna test the limits of our comfort zones. It's a little unfair since our comfort zones are very different sizes. But I said, what the hell? So with a backpack full of EpiPens, anxiety medications, Tums, and 3 first aid kits, I flew to Vietnam. And as soon as I got there, Jeremy said, first thing on the agenda, you, me, AK-47s. Now, I'd never even touched a gun before, and a therapist once told me that the best way to conquer your fears is to take baby steps. And an AK-47 is not a baby step. So I was like, actually, I was more like, Jeremy, absolutely not. So we're at the firing range, and I'm holding an AK-47, and the guy running the range is telling me that my grip isn't firm enough, and he's going, squeeze, squeeze, and finally he says, hold it like you're horny. And I was like, this is a little bigger than I'm used to. More of a respectable pistol with the safety on. Of course, I look over at Jeremy, and he's handling it just fine. Because he has a bigger comfort zone, okay? He has a big comfort zone energy. Also, like, AK-47s do not make me horny. Like, I don't mean to kink shame anyone in the audience from Texas, but you want to know what turns me on? Natalie Portman speaking Hebrew. Natalie Portman speaking English, and Ken Burns documentaries. They're very sensual. So I fired the gun, and Jeremy seemed proud of me, and as we left the range, I said, "What's next?" And he said, "Oh, I rented bikes for us to go to the next town." Next morning, I woke up to find Jeremy standing next to 2 Yamaha motorcycles. I think he could see the betrayal on my face, because the first thing he said was, "I didn't lie to you. Here in Vietnam, they just call these bikes." Now that's disingenuous, because bikes and motorbikes are not the same thing. That's like if your friend said, "Let's play roulette," and then pulled out a gun and was like, "I didn't lie to you. Here in Russia." I went over to the guy that Jeremy had rented the bikes from, and I was like, "You know how long, it takes to get to the next town on these?" And he said, "Oh, well, your friend rented it for a day trip through the mountains, so it's 12 hours. That was my reaction, too. Jeremy came over and put his arm around my shoulder, and he said, "So, how are we feeling?" And I said, "Jeremy, I am an angry muffin." Because I was convinced I was going to die, and I started to go through all the thoughts you have when you think you're going to die. Like, I haven't written a will, and I haven't specified my burial arrangements. I haven't deleted my browser history in a very long time. There's a lot of WebMD on there. But we got on the road, and as we came to the first big intersection, I heard someone yelling behind me, and I turned around to see this 70-something-year-old Vietnamese woman on a motorcycle carrying a bag of groceries and a baby. And she's yelling at me and pointing at Jeremy and yelling at me and pointing at Jeremy, and we're looking around for someone to translate. Finally, this Good Samaritan rides up alongside us, and he goes, "She says you're going too slow and that you should share a bike with your father." And I wanted to correct her. I wanted to be like, "Actually, ma'am, these are called motorcycles." Right, Dad? But we got into the mountains, and as soon as we hit this free stretch of road, I felt the wind in my face and started to pick up speed, and I felt this sense of exhilaration that I had never experienced before. When we finally got to our destination, Jeremy asked me how I was feeling again. I said, "Actually, amazing. Like, I've never felt this way before." And he said, "That's what I like to hear. Now, there's one more thing you got to do on this trip before you can really conquer your fears." And I said, "Whatever it is, I'll do it." He said, "You got to get in a cage with a tiger." I said, I'm not doing it." Apparently, Jeremy had already been to this so-called tiger sanctuary, and he was trying to explain to me how awesome it was. He was like, "It's so amazing, you got to do it." And I said, "Jeremy, I'm not doing it." And he was like, "This could be your only chance to ever do this." I said, "Jeremy, I'm not doing it." And he said, "Natalie Portman would do it." So I'm at the tiger sanctuary. Now, I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio, and our sports team, our NFL team, is the Cincinnati Bengals, and their mascot is a tiger, and I'm a big fan. So I had brought my orange and black tiger-striped Cincinnati Bengals t-shirt on the trip with me. So I wore it to the tiger sanctuary as like a peace offering to the tiger. I get to the cage, it's surrounded by tourists, and they let me in, and I'm standing 5 feet away from a sleeping adult male tiger. And that's when this 12-year-old kid outside the cage yells, "Eat him!" I don't know why you guys think that's funny. Seemed like a very real possibility to me at the time, but I couldn't turn back because they had closed the door. And the tiger guy goes, "Give me your phone, put your head on its butt, and I'll take a photo." I said, "Excuse me?" And he said, "Put your head on its butt, and I'll take a photo." I said, "Okay." And so I gave him my phone, and I lied down on the tiger, and as soon as my head hit the tiger's butt, I felt it wrap its tail around my neck. I turned around to see it pick up its head and come towards me with its mouth open. And all I could think in that moment is I did not pack enough first aid kits. I looked back at the guy with my phone, and he's going, get up now, get up now." So I scrambled up, and the tiger got up and starts pacing, and I'm looking at the tiger, I'm looking at the guy, and I'm looking at the tiger, I'm looking at the guy, and finally the guy goes, "The tiger doesn't like your shirt." So essentially, what he was saying is that the tiger accused me of cultural appropriation. What I found out later is that these tiger sanctuaries actually drug the tigers to make them less anxious around people. And the first thing I thought when I read that was, tigers are Jewish? But in all seriousness, if there's anyone from PETA in the audience, I just want to say I'm sorry. If I had known that they were sedating the tigers, I would have asked them to sedate me instead. At the end of our trip, we got to the airport, and I asked Jeremy what he was going to do for the rest of the summer, and he said he was going skydiving. He asked me what I was going to do, and I said, after all this, I'm probably just going to take it easy, maybe watch a few Ken Burns documentaries. But I really do cherish that trip, and I was grateful to Jeremy for pushing me to my limits, forcing me to conquer my fears, and showing me what it was like to have a big comfort zone. While I probably won't ever go skydiving or get in a cage with a tiger again, I have loosened up a little bit. For example, just recently I took my niece on a roller coaster for toddlers. Baby steps. Thank you.
Cody Pomeranz, ladies and gentlemen.